For the next hour, deepen your shade of green. This is the Shades of Green radio show, featuring the latest in technology, money-saving ideas, legislative updates, and all things green. The Shades of Green radio show is presented by the Green Alliance. Now here's your hosts, Paul Ira and Stan Hannell.
Good morning. This is Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM, only FM talk radio in the Valley. Our show is produced by Green Alliance of Nevada, and I am your host, Paul Ira. Today in studio, we have Marie Steele from e-centricity LLP, Electrifying Nevada's 21st Century Transportation System. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
And also, of course, we have Stan Hannell, our co-host, and very astute and professional person when it comes to electric vehicles. So he's going to have a lot of input today, I'm sure.
He's got me way beat. Many more decades on this. He's seen the cycle twice.
I think he was the one who actually invented electricity. He is the old man of electricity, so that's all good. So today we're going to talk about a report that came out of the governor's office, Marie. Is that where it came from?
The Governor's Office of Energy commissioned this report. That's correct. Excellent.
So this report is Electrifying Nevada's 21st Century Transportation System. Actions, Opportunities, Aspirations. And who wrote this report?
It was written by my company, e-centricity LLP, with my partner, Lauren Rosenblatt.
And thank you.
With the great participation of a lot of stakeholders inside of Nevada, including government agencies, advocacy, and industry.
Did Stan have his fingers in this?
Indirectly.
Indirectly, yes.
Good for you. So please tell us how you got involved with developing transportation policy for electric vehicles and the support infrastructure, as well as more about your company. e-centricity LLP.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation today. I've been working with Green Alliance for many a year now on advocating not just electric vehicles, but sustainability in general. So congratulations for all the good work that you guys continue to do. About 4 years ago, Stan, or so,
right.
In 2014, I used to work for NV Energy. In 2014, I took over their electric vehicle program. Because I ran into electric vehicles in my MBA, and that was my internship, electric vehicle racing in Barcelona, and I fell in love ever since. So since 2014, I've been involved in it with the state on a policy level, on the program for the electric utility, both in Nevada and beyond. And in March of last year, with my partner Lauren Rosenblatt, we created e-centricity LLP to help governments and companies start to embrace new technologies around energy and transportation and this nexus of things that are available for people that weren't once before around energy consumption, to make it more tangible, more approachable, how to advance the new energy economy in Nevada and beyond.
Well, electric vehicles have surely advanced considerably, especially in the last few years. So why should Nevada focus on transportation electrification?
Well, it's good for a lot of things. It's good for air quality. It's good for clean energy and energy dependence. It's great for economic development and economic efficiency, and great for jobs. So I don't see a low note there. Do you?
No low note there. Tell us about jobs some more. That's always an interesting topic.
So we were just talking about that. We were at CES. So electric vehicles and connected vehicles and autonomous and shared is this mega trend that is advancing globally. And it's also happening locally that we need to advance it. And jobs that come out of that are new technology, software, hardware, charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. So that's what the things that bring to the economy. Something that Stan has promoted for a long time as an individual or a business, you can save by switching to electric. So there's more money in state. And then also economic development as well, which hits jobs, is switching from fossil fuels and gas to electricity, which can be served by renewable energy, whether solar or geothermal in the north, is great for Nevada as it is our in-state resource. So all of those help while also impacting air quality.
Yeah, I think one thing we've talked about in the past is that as a state, we don't have fossil fuel resources. We don't mine coal here. We don't drill oil here. We don't even, I think, maybe a tiny little refinery for gasoline someplace.
Right.
But so all that natural gas also has to all be imported by pipeline into the state. But sunshine and geothermal are right here in our state, and we just have to harvest it and use it and create jobs. And
Right.
It works really well. Yeah.
We are kind of mecca for the solar industry here in
We
Nevada.
have sun 300 days a year.
300.
So it's a double
Except for
impact.
the-
So for your generation, if you can source our transportation needs by renewable energy, you're saving in two places, from power generation and then also in transportation, because transportation is now actually the number one source of emissions in Nevada. It has now overtaken power generation because of the great policies around renewable energy development. So it is the next frontier of environmental needs to reduce carbon reduction is transportation.
As well as create jobs. So there's the economic.
Right.
It's three.
Again,
yeah,
no low
economics,
notes, Stan.
yeah.
No.
We're singing soprano here.
Well, it's so sunny here that we like to say that when it's cloudy outside, we call in sick. So moving on, generally the reports focus just on how to promote electric vehicles. This report is much broader to encompass all transportation, including advanced mobility. What was the process and genesis for the report?
So the process was Nevada has made great strides in electric and advanced mobility solutions. But to really move it forward and embrace it, we needed a holistic strategy. So for the Governor's Office of Energy, they have goals in becoming the leading renewable energy producer and exporter in the country, deploying storage and deploying electric vehicles. So we sought to make a holistic strategy that addresses all transportation needs, planning needs with the counties and cities to really move this forward, because there's so many conversations when you just say electric vehicles that you needed to address it from a holistic state strategy on how all players are involved. So over the last 6 months, I'd say, we kicked off in the middle of the summer and we met with over 24 state and Nevada government agencies. So air quality, transportation agencies, both at the state and local level, environmental agencies, cities and counties, and then the advocacy groups to see where we were at a baseline strategy, what we've done to date, what are the hurdles to go further, and where they wanted to be in their aspirations. So we made kind of a benchmark, and then we took that strategy and went to industry and then also the federal government to see where they thought future funding was going to be, where the industry is going, to make a better informed state policy that's attainable with, given our tax burdens, given different scenarios inside the state. These trends are global, but policy is local. So we really needed to make a Nevada-specific, tangible report that's attainable with a few aspirations in there as well.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job. And
Thank you, Stan.
What I really like is the Appendix B actually.
I love that you love the appendix.
Yes, there's your roadmap right there.
The meat is there. The hours are in the appendix.
Yeah, what she's done is identify not only the statutes that are involved, but also each level of government from state as well as Las Vegas City, Henderson, Washoe County, but also Reno. And then we've basically been able to look at each role in that government and who should do what. So I think that's really neat, is you actually put out the physical implementation of the plan as well, which is really helpful for policymakers going forward.
Well, there's several components of this report and hopefully upcoming bills that we want to talk about. Some of them are going to include the 5 goals and then something called ACEs. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that. We'll be right back to Shades of Green on KDWN. Good morning. This is Shades of Green radio show, simulcast on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM here in Las Vegas. The show is produced by Green Alliance, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. We have in studio Marie Steele from e-centricity LLP. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
And Stan Hannell.
Good morning.
Mr. EV himself. So we've covered a few topics here. I want to ask you a question about ACEs. What's ACEs stand for?
ACES stands for Autonomous, Connected, Electric, and Shared.
That kind of tells the story right there, doesn't it, about where we want to go.
The future of mobility, my friend.
The future of mobility, our friends. So last week, all of us, I think, were lucky enough to attend the Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas, the largest show on Earth, as the old Barnum and Bailey used to say, greatest show on Earth, and it is. And there's no way in even 7 days you could get around to all just the areas to see them, much less every booth, like 4,400 booths. One of the things that stood out for me was the autonomous vehicles and how much of it there was. And the talk that we don't do that much of it yet, this is kind of futuristic. And I kept saying, no, we're already doing that here in Nevada. So tell us a little about that and what you saw at CES, Marie.
I mean, I think what was fascinating and great to see the ever-growing presence of the automotive sector at CES, you know, whether it's the connected vehicles or the autonomous projects. And you are very, very correct. Nevada is a test bed for autonomous deployment because we have had great policy put forth. For that, we've got the downtown connector in Las Vegas. We had the first autonomous shuttle deployed in the United States.
I was going to say, that wasn't just because we're a desert and you can run around cars in the desert and no one's going to get hit. We actually have them in town running around. Don't
We have in town, but those are, you know, as we talk about a policy report, those are strategic decisions a state has made to advance autonomous and advanced mobility solutions, to bring new companies to the state to deploy these technologies for the mobility solutions of the future. The RTC also just got another grant for another autonomous connector, I believe, in the medical district. And RTC of Washoe County actually has an autonomous program with their Proterra electric bus to start to think of the future of autonomous transit buses as well, and that's a partnership with UNR. So there's a lot of activity moving around. Those are just a few of them. Mm-hmm. So when you think of autonomous, you also should think of electric. These new advanced mobility solutions are going to be overwhelmingly electric. Right. So as these strategies, they're moving together. We need to make sure that we're planning for them together.
Yeah. And the reason for that is electric. If everything's electric, then all the systems respond and integrate together much better than trying to electronically control a throttle or that sort of thing, a mechanical throttle. So if you have something that's electric, the response is in milliseconds as compared to maybe...
right. And we also have not just autonomous, we have great connected pilots that are happening inside of the state where your car is connected to the... now I can't think of it, the signal, and it'll count down for you.
Oh, so the traffic signal.
The
right.
traffic
yes.
signal. So
right.
RTC of Southern Nevada, their FAST system has the ability to deploy technology much quicker than, say, other metropolitan planning organizations in the country by the way that they're set up. Yeah. So as we move forward with this advanced mobility, there are many solutions that will be electric that are exciting. When we think of shared, the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world, they're likely going electric. That's their plan, and to be powered by renewable energy. You know, it's really this huge opportunity to grow our renewable energy sector with transportation.
Yeah, and Lyft has been working with Aptiv out here.
Yes, sir. That's another one. I just said only a couple of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's amazing. And that actually started last year, just after CES, I think. And there's about 20 sites where you can hail a Lyft autonomous vehicle. A person shows up behind the wheel, but the car is actually doing the driving. Right. And you just hop in after you've been picked up from Lyft, and you go to one of these locations on the Strip. Yeah, it's amazing.
But back to your original question that I just completely bifurcated. Yeah. CES and the OEMs, the auto manufacturers, I think what not everybody realizes is global policy. And so there are countries with major market share that are banning fossil fuels in the near future or thinking about it. So when we think of electric may or may not be happening, it may happen in the future, it's advancing quickly. And so when you see at CES and not at CES, major manufacturers announcing that they're either going all electric with every model or that they'll have a majority of their models being electric soon or in the very near future, Nevada needs to be ready to embrace that into our grid and use it for our benefit because the transportation sector is changing ever so quickly based upon global policy.
Right. So even company names like Cadillac. Stan
Right,
mentioned this week that
Yeah.
Cadillac wants to go all electric, so all their vehicles be electric. That's
Over time, yeah.
that's a pretty fast advancing concept. So macro trends. Did we talk about that, or you want to?
I mean, so light duty vehicles are going electric. So the personal ones that you're choosing, that's coming on very, very rapidly. Transit, so public transit buses, the cost of those have come down that they're almost on price parity with fossil fuel transit buses. RTC of Washoe County is already committed to go 100% electric. School buses, that's the next big market, is electric school buses. They actually have a interesting business model to become resources because they are parked when we need them during the sun. So there's something called vehicle to grid. So those are your transit solutions. When you think of the Ubers and Lyfts of the world, they're going to go autonomous and electric. That's their next frontier is the strategy. So when you think about how you're going to move with microtransit and shared vehicles, another big macro trend is ownership of vehicles is going to decrease significantly. So
Shared community resources, where you have a community with shared vehicles and you don't own a vehicle, you just go use one when you need it. And so use your credit card to pay for it or whatever.
So the way that we think about planning and streets and complete streets has to be rethought. Going back to the holistic approach is the way cities and counties need to plan is going to be different. How are roads and curbside usage and pull-offs for autonomous vehicles? There's a whole new, city planning paradigm that's being embraced as well.
Well, that's part of what's driving cities to the smart city concept. So with all the cameras and information collection, they can use that data, analyze that, and determine what these streets should look like based on traffic patterns. And especially when the new vehicles come out, there'll be new traffic patterns and fewer cars out there, so streets won't have to be as big. And they're probably smaller cars, so they won't have to be as big.
Right.
If you've been to Europe, they're all small cars over there. You see a car even the size of mine, which is mid-size, it looks big compared to everything over there. So some of the things we saw, and to help me understand this, we've all seen movies where in the office building, there's this mail robot that's driving around delivering mail. Autonomous vehicles are the same thing, starting and stopping where they're scheduled to start and stop. And they're just doing what they do electronically. And like Stan says, without them being electric, they wouldn't seamlessly integrate as well. But being they're all electric, the automation systems that will control them are all there. So we'll talk some more about electric vehicles and some policy and macro trends when we come back. The Shades of Green on KDWN. We'll be right back. Good morning. We're back to Shades of Green on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM, simulcast here in Las Vegas. In studio, we have Marie Steele from e-centricity LLP, and we're talking about electrifying Nevada's 21st century transportation system. Good morning, Marie.
Good morning.
And of course, the god of electric vehicles, Stan Hannell.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Nevada is very lucky to have Stan.
They are. I've learned so much from Stan about electric vehicles and just life in general.
Oh, wow.
You're shameless, Paul.
I am. The purpose of your report and has an action plan, which includes 5 goals by implementing 16 objectives. So I think
41 actions. It's a lot.
That's 21 plus 41. That's got us up to 62 things for you to talk about in the next 7 minutes. So tell us about the 5 goals first.
So as we talked about before, to really embrace and accelerate all those great benefits that transportation electrification can bring. So remember, economic development.
Embrace and accelerate, I like that.
Clean air, renewable energy development, jobs, more money in your pocket. we have to have a cohesive strategy as a state and really embrace bringing it together. We've done some great things prior to make sure that we're supporting it, but to really have a cohesive strategy and accelerate these things and make sure that they're bringing those benefits on, we thought through this action plan with many stakeholders in Nevada. So it's, they're supportive of it as well. So at first, we need to establish leadership on transportation electrification. Right now, it sits in many different departments, but if there's the ability to create a joint program office that is collaborating and coordinating all of these strategies amongst the many spider webs it touches, as Stan said, all the policies, that would be great. Setting an express policy mandate. And then when you talk about electric vehicles, you have to talk about how we pay for the roads. Electric vehicles aren't necessarily the problem, but as we think about how we're going to pay for the roads in the future, that's one of the hurdles that has to be addressed with fuel efficiency, inflation. How we pay for our roads is in the future. Second is electrifying regional connectivity and mobility. And this goes back to buses, and buses. When you think about how many of them you see, whether it's the RTC or private charters or school buses, Clark County actually happens to be the third largest or maybe the second largest school district from buses in the nation. No, for buses.
Oh, for buses?
For buses, it has more than north of 1,600 school buses.
Wow.
So how do we move those forward? What are the innovative business plans to do that? And then how do we integrate that load into the grid? So the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, will be a very active participant in many of these actions, and you'll keep hearing how do we integrate it into the grid is a big piece of how we make sure that we increase the renewable energy development from these things.
Right. So basically your electric vehicles are being fueled by fuel that's clean as well, coming from clean resources.
Right.
Yeah.
Use our smart grid to talk to the cars. When do we charge at the appropriate time? It's really this very connected solution. Third, electrify multimodal transportation for reduced congestion and livable communities. That's a mouthful.
I was going to say that again. Electrify.
Start to learn the word multimodal. We move in different ways, whether it's your personal vehicle, whether it's public transit, whether it's your e-bike that you can share, or if it's your shared vehicle, an Uber or Lyft. So we need to think about those different multimodal and also your personal vehicle. What charging infrastructure are we going to have? We have the opportunity to study what charging infrastructure we're going to need in the future, because right now we actually have a program through NB Energy, an electric vehicle infrastructure demonstration program for incentives. So we have this opportunity to take now and study what we're really going to need for ACEs in the future, autonomous, connected, electric, and shared, to see what the future looks like. And then also, what for your personal vehicle, the education and outreach, what we need to do to get people into electric cars. So that's multimodal and reducing congestion in livable communities. That's three. I promise I'll go quick. Support advanced electrified transportation technologies and development. And this is that conversation we had about autonomous. We really need to continue to promote pilots around autonomous vehicles, connected, and investing in our infrastructure and transportation systems. So continue to make those smart technology investments, and the state is doing a fantastic job at that, and just continue moving that forward. And lastly, electrify efficient movement of goods and services. So that's electrifying your fleets when you think of businesses. Then you also have to think about the future when you hear of e-aviation. Drones are going to be overwhelmingly electric. Delivery, so airports. There's a multitude of things from fleets and different types of modes of transportation, whether it's aviation or things like that. How we move that forward, government fleets, do we do different procurement processes at a state level to make sure that we advance this ability? So in those 5 objectives...
Nicely done, Marie.
Right, quickly. I talk fast. There is a very lengthy action plan that is already, working with the state agencies and local agencies to move that forward, and the strategic coordination of it is really the way to move that forward. But an express policy mandate to really push it forward, to say it is important to the state to embrace this and move it forward is really paramount.
So I see this as a big lift, and so it's going to take a lot of action by a lot of different people and agencies to make it all work, but the outcome should be very exciting. I mean, I see solar panels sitting out there at gas stations with recharging stations connected to them, and you pull up and you don't even have to connect your wires. You just pull up over a platform. It charges your vehicle while you're filling up on soda and chips, and your vehicle will be filling up on electrons. So that's great stuff. What do you see as some of the challenges? I mean, talking about all these different agencies and people and what we're trying to achieve, but the challenges of getting the policies together, where are we headed with that?
Well, I think the challenge is, as any policymaker faces any decision, is competing priorities and funding. And so this report really took a deep dive into putting forth different funding opportunities for it. We didn't pretend to pull money out of the air. But if there is one big ask, it is to put the stake in the ground that this is a priority for the state, so that we can have that coordination amongst the different entities to move this forward, because they're ready. You know, everyone acknowledges that transportation is the next frontier of carbon reduction opportunities, and then the other benefits around economic development and renewable energy development flourishes from it. But clean air is paramount amongst our carbon reduction priorities.
And all true. I've been working in this field for many years, and clean air is great, but it doesn't pay the bills. So reducing the operating cost and having clean air as a byproduct, if you will, although some of us see it as one of the goals and a target, a lot of the people who are the second piece, the funding, are less concerned with clean air and more concerned with what does it cost to run. So if we can show that it's a cheaper operating cost and it cleans the environment, then that's really a good thing. We should be able to get a lot of help from that. We've got a lot more to talk about here yet today, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to Shades of Green on KDWN. Good morning. This is Shades of Green Radio Show on KDWN 720 AM and 101.5 FM, simulcast here in Las Vegas. Our show is produced by Green Alliance of Nevada, and I'm your host, Paul Ira. And speaking of Green Alliance, if you're not a member, become a member. It's easy. Stan, what's that website?
We've got greenalliancenv.org to sign up for membership.
So membership, there are free memberships for teachers, students, and we also need volunteers because coming in April is
the
Earth
10th,
Day.
10th
annual Green Fest. We're pretty proud of this.
Wow.
Green Fest is going to have over 120 booths, a lot of fun for the kids. Actually, there's fun there for adults, too. There's going to be a beer garden, a lot of places where you can spend money and learn things and buy some sustainable products, help some artists and help some small businesses keep going, and help the planet by reducing your carbon footprint, increasing your level of sustainability, and get more green. Stan, what else you got? You got an event up in Reno. On February 1st is Nevada Electric Transportation Forum. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. That's Green Alliance is actually involved in that. Tom Polakalis is one of our members up in Reno who's putting that together. It'll be at the InNEVation Center at the University of Nevada-Reno, and it'll be on February 1st from 8 a.m. to about 1:30 p.m. And it's an attempt for, just as we're going into the state legislative session in February, a chance for a lot of the people to gather and talk about what we want to do, exactly what Marie's outlining now. In fact, Marie is going to be a speaker at that forum as well, so that'll be fun to get everyone together.
It should be great. Tom Polakalis with SWEEP has done a fantastic job, and Commissioner Pongrantz with the Public Utilities Commission will be there. Senator Chris Brooks will be there. There's a multitude of people to kick off session there to talk about electric vehicles and what Nevada is doing to embrace it. It should be a great event.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So again, join Green Alliance, go online, become a member, help us out. You can volunteer for the Green Fest in April. We need lots of bodies to help us move things, set things up, keep an eye on things, and have a lot of fun. And for those of you that are not volunteering, join us at Green Fest. Bring your kids and your family. It's a lot of fun. It's all day long. Typically, it's that time of year when it's sunny. It's not too hot. We've only had one rain that I remember, and that was a bad one.
Yeah, but it was right at the end. Right. It came down right at the end.
Nice closing sales pitch, Paul.
So if it rains come anyway, it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was still a good time.
The beer garden has a roof over it.
Yes, it does.
It's important if it rains. So as we sat here, I think about this big picture, this vision, which is what this report is taking us to. And sometime in the future, and we don't know if it's going to be 3 years or 5 or 10 or hopefully not 20, but sometime in the near future, this more electric transportation, autonomous vehicles, the autonomous connected electric and shared vehicles scenario.
Jetsons.
ACEs, the
Right.
Jetsons. So I don't
Are
know
you
that they're
proud
going to
that
be.
you learned ACEs today?
I am proud of that. And here we are, how apropos being in Las Vegas to know about ACEs. Tell us what your vision is. How does this big picture look? What is this whole electrification going to do, including the solar, the smart city, the tying into the grid, the vehicles, autonomous?
Would you like my magic crystal ball?
Give me your magic crystal ball.
Well, I mean, I think you touched on it right there, and I think it's another thing that Nevada has embraced significantly, whether it's smart cities, smart communities, or the smart state initiative that they have through the Nevada Governors Association, is that mobility is a huge piece of the tangible solutions inside of smart communities, is what we're calling it now, for resiliency and how we're going to transition, livable communities. So, a vision that I see, at least very specifically, is, these distributed resources. And many people don't know what that means when I say that. So that's, from an energy perspective, distributed resources is your battery, your solar, and your vehicle, which may or may not, if it's electrical, become a resource in the future. So you're driving a battery, basically,
Right.
which is a resource to the grid. So when we think about how that's going to change, and whether you touched on resiliency, that was big at CES, mobile buses, when you think about it like that, is a mobile battery. So now that can become emergency response. So if we have a power outage, you can drive a car or a bus to wherever and be able to just provide backup power. So there's this whole new future of uses for vehicles. How you drive, it's autonomous. So it all envelops into these smart communities of the future that Nevada is very aggressively embracing.
So a bus could go to a disaster area and turn from a bus to a hospital in pretty short order, and provide power, lighting, what have you, to the area, and help with emergency response. So in this big vision, we have to really be out of the box, thinking about where we're headed in this new Jetsons future that's here now. So it's
But
very
you think
exciting.
about your Jetsons too, is now you're going to have your flying cars. So you saw that as well.
I saw
Bell
that.
Helicopter had a
Bell Helicopter had
Bell
an awesome
Helicopter.
looking
That was
Yeah,
amazing.
craft,
Yes.
if you will, that is as much drone as it is helicopter.
Yeah. Ducted fans.
Pretty too.
Yeah.
The color was incredible. So
So
watching that is
you think about that. How we move inside of our communities is going to change. The increased mobility for every sector of our communities is going to increase. So your ability to move and your vehicles miles traveled per capita is going to increase. So the more mobility you have is greater for economic development, greater for social growth. All of this is great. New technologies to provide people better information and better access to things inside of the community.
So when you think about people that can't afford cars, so they don't have cars because they can't afford to buy a whole car, now they can share cars, and more people are going to have access to personal transportation. As well as you think about now, there's companies that want to deliver medication with drones. Imagine now applying that to Amazon and UPS and the
food,
mail.
and
You don't
Retail
have to
stores,
imagine.
Yeah. It's already here.
The point is, that's already here,
Yes.
and it's
Right.
coming. It's going to be growing. What I see Nevada doing here is, we knocked on the door, they opened it, we're inside now, and now we're going to take this and advance it to a point that the rest of the country is going to be looking at, the rest of the world saying, look what they're doing, we need to do that too. So we're setting the stage for where this is headed.
Setting the stage and setting the appropriate, it's boring to talk about it, but our world is statutes and regulations. Setting the right framework now for how to embrace these technologies really is going to poise Nevada to be at the lead of advanced mobility, which is our ACEs that we talked about. And it's an opportunity that we shouldn't miss to really use it to clean up our air and grow the renewable energy sector. And so it's here. And if we take the right steps now, we can embrace it even better for the betterment of everybody.
And all the renewable energy sectors are coming down in cost to implement. So
batteries too, down like 80%.
Batteries too. They're
solar.
competing very well with all the fossil fuel resources, which is why they're going away and they don't pollute. So it's, as I like to always say, it's a great time to be alive. So since you're alive, join Green Alliance. Learn more about where we're headed and what's coming up. Go to Greenfest in April. I want to thank Marie for being here today. This has been a wonderful topic to talk about. Yeah. And we'll be back next week on Shades of Green on KDWN. Keep it green out there. See you next week.
Thank you.